Hey guys, welcome to the back room of my house in my lovely little fan hat here. Okay, so we are officially about to start our next unit. The name of the next unit is called Journey. It's probably not quite what you're expecting. This is not something that you have learned before. This is something new, which we don't get to say a whole lot in eighth grade, right? In English anyway. So welcome to our new unit. Here's a little bit about what we are going to learn about. This is not your typical English unit, so beware. So I want to know, what if I told y'all, what if I told you that almost every story that humans have ever written is the same? Take just a minute to think about that. I'm not talking about a plot diagram here, right? You've seen this since third or fourth grade again and again and again. And you're like, well, yeah, duh, strip matter. Of course, every story ever told is the exact same. You know, it's got the beginning, it's got the middle, it's got the exciting part, it's got the end. I'm talking about something much, much more specific, more predictable, and a lot more detailed. So I am not talking about the plot diagram. I'm talking about the actual details and steps of a story. And I'm saying that every story, every myth, every like Greek myth, Egyptian myth, every movie that we're producing nowadays, almost every movie, most video games, and every novel is the same. So I really mean like every story here. So for thousands of years. So I'm not just saying like in our world today. I'm also talking about like across cultures. We're talking across eras. We're talking 5,000 years ago. We're talking 50 years ago. We're talking a story that hasn't come out yet that'll be published in 5 years. The really interesting thing is that it also appears on every continent, and we just keep telling this same story. So what the heck is going on here? This guy, this is a picture of him, named Joseph Campbell, was the first one to kind of really say, you know, hey, is anybody else noticing all these interesting patterns here? Like, they just keep echoing. Yeah. So he starts looking at all these stories and notices every single one of them has the same steps. He noticed that there were striking similarities. Like, things were the exact same in Greek myths, in Native American myths, modern day stories, and religions and movies and more. Every single story seemed to echo each other. And so you're like, oh, well, okay, hey, fine. We all started with one story and we just kept passing that story down because we liked it. We're talking about people on different continents, like Native Americans and Greeks, who had no contact with each other, coming up and creating these same stories. So this is like the time that we realized that the Egyptians built pyramids and that the Mayans built pyramids, and they had no contact with each other. So humans built pyramids twice in history, very, very well. It's kind of interesting. This is huge. This is finding out that we're telling the same story without influence from our ancestors. So we're saying that if we were to have humans live on the moon with no previous contact from the other humans and raise a whole civilization on their own, they're going to come up with the same story again. That is how significant this is. So the question is, if we keep telling the same story, not like being passed down, but we keep reinventing the same story, is that just coincidence? Well, Joseph Campbell didn't think so. So he went in to look at so many, hundreds upon hundreds of different stories, bridging into the thousands. And he goes on to write a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Everything comes off of this idea that there is one main protagonist in each story. We'll call that the hero, right? Because even bad guys are the heroes of their own stories. So the main character is called the hero, and this hero goes through the exact same steps every single time. But it wasn't just the beginning, middle, and end. They were very strangely specific steps. So how could that even be possible? And if it is possible that every single story we're telling is the exact same, what does that even mean? And what the heck is this story that I keep talking about? Like, what is the story that we keep retelling? We named that story. The name of this story that we keep retelling across all cultures, across time, is called The Hero's Journey. That's the name of our unit, Journey. So you're going to hear me referring to this idea of the hero's journey. I don't want you to think of this as a plot diagram. In fact, it looks quite different. It looks, you know what? I'll show you what it looks like in just a second, but let me tell you guys about this really quick. That's nice. So is it actually every story? Seriously? Yeah, it's every story. Um, so we find it in, are you ready for this? Every single Disney movie in the history of ever. Every single one. The ones made back in like the 50s, the ones that are being made right now, the animated ones, the live action ones, you name it. Did Disney start from the outset and say, hey, we want to keep retelling the same story with different characters? Nope. It is in us to keep telling the same story. It's also probably in your favorite movie, whether your favorite movie is The Fast and the Furious, or it's Coco, or your favorite movie is The Avengers. Pick one. Any of the Avengers movies, or anything. It's going to follow the hero's journey. It's in most religions. We find it with different characters, or not. whoa. We find it with different figures in different religions. We find it in every single RPG video game, right? Every role-playing game. So, and even then we find it in some other ones. So whether it's Mario, which is not even role-playing, it's a platformer, whether you find it in Super Mario, which you do, or you find it in The Last of Us, or you find it in, I mean, you can name any single role-playing game and it'll be there. We find it in most mythologies, and we even find it in, dun, 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 move my video for a second here. We even find it in ourselves, which is going to end up being the key of why we keep retelling the same story. So here, instead of looking at that cool like mountain diagram, yeah, right, like that's actually cool, for the plot triangle, we always view the hero's journey. That is what this is a symbol of, this circle. We always view the hero's journey as a circle. It's a cycle that you start at the beginning, you go all the way around, and then you come back to the beginning again. And so this is the step that every single story in the history of ever follows. You're always going to have the ordinary world starting at the top. And in this one, you'll notice it's going to go around, if you follow the numbers, it goes around in clockwise order, and then you come back up to the top. This one goes in counterclockwise order. It's going to start right over here, the call to adventure, and it goes in counterclockwise order. Do not focus on these individual steps right now. I'm going to simplify this for you guys over the next couple of days. But I just want to look at an example with you guys really fast. I need to like pick a movie, any movie. How about Frozen? Because whether we want to admit it or not, most of us have seen Frozen. So if you don't want to use Frozen, I want you to put your own favorite movie in your head. Make sure it's a movie you know really, really well. So I'll give you just a second to think of a movie you know really, really well. And follow along, kids, because we're about to go on an adventure here. Let's see if it fits your actual movie that you have in your head. Ordinary World. Okay, so the protagonist of Frozen, you figure out who the protagonist is based on who makes the sacrifice and who has the most change. So Elsa and Anna are really hard to sort of pick between the two, but I would say we spend more time with Anna than we do with Elsa. So Anna's Ordinary World really starts once she is older. Her parents have already died, and I need to figure out a way to go faster, guys. I'm sorry. I just realized our video time, so I'm going to go quicker. Okay, so Anna's Ordinary World is she is stuck in this castle, and she never gets to escape. So the call to adventure is going to be, that's usually a stranger coming to town. Somebody brings a message. Something crazy happens. Well, in this case, something kind of crazy happened. Her sister goes berserk. Turns out she has powers, and she runs away. So that's Anna's call to go out and go to adventure. At first, a lot of times there's a refusal of the call where the protagonist doesn't want to really go out or have that adventure. Anna, because she loves her sister, doesn't have the stage too strongly. Meeting with the mentor is usually going to be somebody that kind of helps them along the way. Sometimes it's an actual person, like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, or Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, or Dumbledore or Hagrid in Harry Potter. But in Frozen, I would say that it actually would be Hans, because she meets him right at a time that he's able to kind of help her refocus on some of her decisions and thoughts. Crossing the threshold is going to be the point that the character actually goes into the unknown. This is going to be where the journey, the adventure really starts. So this is going to be where Anna officially goes out sets off to go find Elsa with I said Hans earlier. Shame on me. Hans is not the mentor. Kristoff is the mentor. Bad Mr. Matter. Sorry, so she met with Kristoff. So crossing the threshold is when she actually starts on the sled with Kristoff. Test allies and enemies, there's usually 3. I don't know why people like the magic number of 3, but there we are. For example, surviving the wolf attack, actually meeting with Elsa, meeting Olaf. That would be a friend. An ally is another name for a friend. And this is all preparing our main character for what we call the approach. So the approach is when you think you're about to come up to like the big ordeal, you're getting ready. This is the point that Anna is literally going up the castle steps to go see Elsa, and she confronts Elsa. Ordeal, Death, and Rebirth is going to be where Anna confronts Elsa, and Elsa attacks her. And we know that Anna is probably going to die because she's frozen her heart, and things are getting worse and worse. So reward, seizing this, it's also called the treasure. So Anna is on her way back, and she's realized, well, maybe Elsa really is happier. And then she has this epiphany where she realizes that true love can melt a frozen heart. Her reward or treasure is Kristoff telling her, well, don't you have true love? You know, hey, what about Hans back in the castle? So Anna races back. She has this road back where she races back to the castle. She tries to find Hans, and then all the crazy stuff goes down. Usually there's some really, really tough stuff that happens with the road back. The resurrection. To be resurrected means to be like brought back to life, right? So you have to die first, or you have to be willing to die, or you have to sacrifice yourself. A lot of times at this point in the story, the hero will literally sacrifice themselves or appear or actually die for the cause. So this is the moment where Anna actually realizes she sees what's actually important. She has a decision to make. On one hand, she can go to Kristoff, who she realizes she truly loves, and save herself to melt her frozen heart, or she can go over to Elsa and basically save her sister. So Anna sacrifices herself to go over and try to save Elsa. And then she freezes to death, right? So she dies. And then because of everything she's been through, because of her knowledge, because of her sacrifice, she's resurrected. And we knew it all along, right? Because true love will melt a frozen heart. So in this case, true love wasn't for the guy or the guy for her. It was her love for her sister. Return with the elixir is the knowledge that our protagonist brings back to save the world. And in this case, Elsa could never figure out how to unfreeze things or take it back. But Anna has realized that love is what undoes things. And so Elsa is now has the power to freeze and unfreeze things. And so our story ends. I'm going to go ahead and end this here because I'm at my time limit, but we are going to actually be breaking this down, and I want to prove to you guys that this is the same story we tell again and again and again. All right, I will talk to you guys in the next clip tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.